won't be an audience, won't be any notes, and Team Trump says that is no problem. When Fox asked the campaign, how is the former president preparing for tonight, they quipped back, what is debate prep, implying that he simply does not need it, that he could maybe wing it. Of course, we know this isn't going to be actual improv here. His campaign added yesterday that fielding constant questions on the campaign trail has been preparation enough.
The big, huge press conferences that are unscripted, questions from many of you. We've had the long-form interviews. We've had the shorter poll-asides. We've had the rally speeches. We've done town halls. You can't prepare for President Trump. There's just no way to do it. It's imagine like a boxer trying to prepare for Floyd Mayweather or Muhammad Ali.
It's debate night, and Trump is being likened to Muhammad Ali and Floyd Mayweather because once you get him in the ring, he's just too fierce. He's too good. Donald Trump doesn't prepare for the debate prepares for Trump.
Donald Trump is the opposite of every great leader with humility I've ever seen. Donald Trump is the most arrogant man I have ever seen. You want to fix America? You do not do it with arrogance.
Trump's been repeating the same lines and running the same political tactics for 10 years, so he's gotten really good at saying the same things over and over again. But will those lines still have the same impact without a live audience present? For Trump, there's no point in saying anything at all if there's no one to clap for him once he's said it. That's why he kept having political rallies even while he was the president. He's a narcissist who needs the constant validation and adoration of his sycophants and lackeys. That's nothing new, we know that. Unfortunately for him, those rally crowd sizes have been dwindling, and rally attendees are now being seen leaving in the middle of Trump's speeches. He's getting a little thirsty, and that's not a great look for a presidential candidate whose entire political career is based off of perceived masculinity and charisma. But Garrett Haake over at MSNBC actually spoke to Trump this morning about the former president's debate prep. Here's what he reported back about his conversation.
So, Garrett, you just got off the phone with Donald Trump.
Breaking news.
Yeah, the former president's in a very good mood about this debate. We talked a little bit about the challenges of preparing for it. And interestingly, he told me that what he thinks is the hardest thing about debating Kamala Harris is the idea that her positions have changed so much, especially going back to when she was running for president 2019, 2020. That you essentially don't know what to prepare for, what positions she might or might not take on the stage. I asked him kind of what does that make it more challenging? What do you do about that? He says he believes it makes it so that voters won't believe her, that they won't trust her. And when I talk to the people who've been working on his debate prep, the Republicans who are in his ear, they say that he's not going to focus on the idea that she's changed positions or that she's a flip-flopper. Instead, he's going to try to attack her for basically whatever the most liberal position she has taken on any issue is. He will try to make her own that position. And essentially, the point you were making, Chris, about how she's a little bit less defined, voters don't know as much about her, Donald Trump will try to define her in the most liberal or progressive way possible.
So his plan is to out Kamala Harris for being a radical liberal, which might be difficult because Kamala Harris is hardly the most radical member of the Democratic Party. Either way, it's probably not the best strategy to attack a member of the Liberal Party for just being a liberal. Now, I'm not a political strategist or advisor or anything like that, but I did play Settlers of Catan over the weekend. I'll tell you right now, I won, thank you very much, but typically my strategy with that game is to focus on what I'm doing rather than trying to just block my opponents. You still need to pay attention to what they're up to, of course. You need to make sure they don't get in the way of what you are trying to build. But for the most part, I'm just trying to get to my 10, maybe 11 victory points, and hopefully I do that before anyone else does. It usually works out pretty well for me. Trump could, rather than attacking Kamala Harris for being a Democrat, and even more so than trying to attack her stances on this or that, he could and should use the opportunity to actually delineate his own presidential platform. He could tell us how he feels about X, Y, and Z because his recent attempts to clarify his political positions have been utterly incoherent. What were his thoughts again on childcare?
I would dare any of you to listen to his answer on childcare and tell me what the hell he was talking about. It was one of the more incoherent things I've ever heard. He thinks tariffs are going to pay for everything. We know that there are attacks on the consumer. But this really highlights a big problem that everyone is saying, well, Trump is so transparent and Trump's out there and that's all that matters. What matters is the content of what he's saying.
Can you commit to prioritizing legislation to make childcare affordable? And if so, what specific piece of legislation will you advance?
Well, I would do that, and we're sitting down. You know, I was somebody, we had Senator Marco Rubio, and my daughter Ivanka was so impactful on that issue. It's a very important issue. But I think when you talk about the kind of numbers that I'm talking about, that because look, child care is child care. There's something, you have to have it. In this country, you have to have it. But when you talk about those numbers compared to the kind of numbers that I'm talking about by taxing foreign nations at levels that they're not used to, but they'll get used to it very quickly.
He could tell us not just how he feels about certain issues, but what he plans to do about them. This isn't a political rally. You don't get points for just making the same joke you've made 20 times before. He's going to have to come with some substance because we know that Kamala Harris will. And let's be fair, Kamala Harris has been scrutinized in the past for talking in circles. The difference is that she usually gets to where she wants to go eventually, and she doesn't need people in comment sections explaining what she really meant to say. That said, I'd be very surprised if she didn't come completely prepared tonight, not just to clarify her own positions, but also to denounce Trump's positions, whatever those are. It will be interesting to see the two of them on the debate stage together too, partly because they've never met. We can probably safely assume how Trump will behave around her, but Harris needs to be prepared for what she, once upon a time, referred to as his weird behavior, referring to his lingering and looming over Hillary Clinton back in 2016. But now, just hours before the debate, Trump and his team are doing some preemptive damage control, telling his supporters that regardless of how well Trump performs in the debate tonight, the media will definitely just say that he lost and lost bad.
I'm going into very hostile territory shortly on a debate with ABC, George Slopadopoulos and that group. And ABC, I think, is the worst of everybody. I think they're the worst. They're the nastiest. They're as bad as you can be. They're worse than NBC, which is saying a lot.
Just like how if he loses the election, it's because it's rigged, but it's not rigged if he wins. Just like how all the polls are biased against him. Just like how the media lies about his small crowd sizes. Just like how everything that's bad for him is wrong and everything that's good for him is right. But he has to plant the seeds in the minds of his supporters so they can begin to identify him and themselves as victims before they're even given a reason to. And they're going to believe he won the debate no matter how well he performs or how well Kamala Harris performs. They're never going to admit, for example, that he's bad at debating, so he has to resort to bully tactics to give off the impression to his supporters that he's got leadership quality. Leaders and bullies are two different things, but to Trump and his supporters, the line between those two things often gets muddled. They also can't tell the difference between strength of force and strength of character. And they let Trump tell them what to think and how to feel about things they should be able to see and comprehend for themselves because they've spent the better part of the last decade building the pedestal that he now stands upon. What are they going to do? Suddenly knock down the structure that they've invested so much of their own time and money and souls into? It's unlikely. And that's just one of the reasons why, in these modern times, I don't like to personally watch political debates. I will watch this one, though, just because I think it'll be fun. All right, that's it for me. If you got anything out of this, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more. Thanks.